feared and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and so jiggle my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
Hey everyone, we are chasing the pennant tonight as our Phillies look a little back on track, hopefully up 4-1 right now as we record this. Fortunately, Arrieta got injured though. I am Borek, joined by Shane and Rob. How you doing tonight, Rob?
I am doing well so far, seeing as we have a 4-1 lead, but it's the bullpen. So who knows? Jojo Romero came in. He got a nice ending double play to get out of the bases loaded jam, and he's pitched well so far, but still a Phillies bullpen. I'm not feeling good until it's over.
True, at least we have the guy in that I usually feel pretty good about. And then Shane, how you doing this evening?
Good, man. This is 2 shows in a row after some time off. I don't know how many more shows I'll be on, in the coming weeks, but it's good to get back on.
Yeah, totally. Especially when we're, as of now, like we said, actually winning a ball game for the first time in a while. So that's always nice to see. But tonight's show, we're going to start with the negative things to get those out of the way and bring it into the positive realm. So for you guys, I'll give Shane this question first. Who do you think is the most to blame for the Phillies' recent struggles, or a couple people, since obviously it could be more than one, that are the most to blame for the recent struggles?
I'm just going to piggyback off my comments last pod. For me, it comes down to John Middleton and Matt Klentak. I think if I had to pick one person or aspect of this team that has failed most, that would be John Middleton. I'm not prepared to defend Matt Klentak by any stretch. I believe that there are aspects of his job that he could certainly execute better than what he does. But I will say that it has to be difficult going to work for an overly involved owner who's, kind of taking your balls away from you and tied one arm behind your back. So for me, John Middleton at this point is right up there with one of the worst people in this city to own a sports team in a long time. So that for me, I'm just going to piggyback off that one. It's John Middleton.
Yeah, that's a good one. He hasn't spent the stupid money he said he was going to spend over a year ago now, because that would be going into the luxury tax with a high market team to try to win. Haven't even come close to doing that. We got, as Ricky Bo said, we replaced bad with worse. Not the way you want to go.
Yeah, I think when you take a look at all, we've been continually behind, the curve of this ever-changing game. Baseball is always a game of adjustments. It's such an old saying, but it's always been that way for the on-field product. And when the game begins to change, you have to be, in line with that curve or attempting to be ahead of it and kind of recreating the next angle that this game takes. And the Phillies have been in every aspect behind that curve. It goes back to, failing to move. This is part of the Amaro era, but failing to move some of the veteran pieces that we kind of grew to love in this city, while they still had some value. At this point, there's not a single member on our 40-man from any of those trades, which is, it's mind-boggling when you take a look at it. But to be continually behind that curve with the way that this team has been built and been drafted and developed, and then to go out there and fail to truly be the big market team that you should be here in Philadelphia, it's just a failure on all fronts by John Middleton. And I would say that at this point, this has been borderline disgraceful. So it's it's John Middleton, man.
Yeah, that's a good one. And Rob, who do you is it Middleton for you, or do you have Middleton and someone else for you? What are your thoughts on the matter?
Well, you two can see it in my background here, and our listeners obviously can't. I have a background here on Skype that says Fire Klentak, and it's been like that for the past couple of weeks now. And it's going to stay like that because I think he is the guy to blame. His talent evaluation as far as acquiring bullpen pieces has been pretty bad. David Phelps, it's kind of a bad luck situation there because he was pitching so well with Milwaukee and had built somewhat of a reputation. He hasn't been great since he came over here. But, Brandon Workman, trading for him based off of what he did in 1 year, he had one good year. Hembry does not have a reputation as being a great bullpen arm. He's just kind of a guy.
Half a year. For a guy that had half a good year in his career.
Yeah, and then I guess you could kind of file Robertson last year under the same category as Phelps, and that Robertson had built a reputation for himself as a reliable guy, and unfortunately he got hurt. But by and large, the bullpen's the biggest weakness of this team, and by and large, Matt Klentak has failed to acquire really anybody of substance, really anybody that we know can go out there any given night and get the job done, get those shutout innings that the team needs. He's pretty much every bullpen arm that he's acquired has been a miss. He went out and he spent a lot of money on Neshek, and that worked out for however long it did. And other than that, these guys just haven't panned out. It's Matt Klentak. I don't know. I'll give him credit for going out and spending the big money on Bryce, although it was really a Middleton thing. Other than that, yeah, that was a Middleton thing. But other than that, the team's biggest weakness is the bullpen. He's completely ignored it, and when he has tried to address it, it hasn't worked out.
Where's the sure thing? I think that's what bothers me about the Klentak situation. It's continually betting on a hope and dream that something is, the anomaly is going to repeat itself. The half a year of Hembry is going to repeat itself. The 6.5 starts from Hale when he was in Atlanta is going to repeat itself. And that Workman is going to duplicate last year's, honestly, phenomenal year. It's mind-boggling to bet on the anomaly, to bet on that outlier, and then to bet on the guys that we've seen here in Philadelphia continually not show up and not be something you should count on. The Sir Anthony situation is malpractice in of itself. You cost this poor kid his career, essentially. I mean,
we talked about that on the last show.
Yeah, it's the meat of this kid's career. And to sit there and bank on that and to say, no, you don't need surgery right now, which, again, we don't know the full story. That could have been Sir Anthony not wanting to go under the knife or his camp not wanting to go under the knife. I don't know that we'll ever know all aspects of that conversation. But still, you bet on that as Matt Klentak that he's going to be there. And that was the wrong move. You bet on Robertson as a midseason comeback. That was the wrong move. The guy was 38 years old. To continually make bets on things that have proven to be not accurate here in Philadelphia or the outlier outside of Philadelphia, to me is, again, malpractice in your position. Your ability, and Rob, you hit it on the head, to fail to evaluate the talent in front of you or the talent that you are acquiring and what that talent is valued at is offensively bad. Again, we're out here pulling a David Hale. We're trading a piece for a Hale who was DFA'd. He's not good enough to cut it on another team that can't win right now. It's amazing to me how you can say, I'd like to give you a piece for that. Now, it's a testament to how bad your bullpen is now. You were in desperation mode, but you lose that trade that should have never happened. Then you go out there and you mentioned it. The Workman thing has not worked out. The Hembry thing is just, he's always just going to be a fourth or fifth option out of the pen at best. Again, to move the pieces that you did. I'm not really counting the Nick Pivetta. I think that was a necessary move at some point. But you take a look at the Connor Siebold. I mean, look at what's going on tonight. Jakin, blows out a hamstring. We don't have pitching. He would have looked real good right now, a Connor Siebold here.
Who also looks good in Baltimore this year?
Huh?
Tommy Eichelman. He actually is looking pretty good in Baltimore.
Yeah, I don't care about Eichelman. That guy's a fraud. But good for him. He's a really nice dude. But yeah, again, so I think you're spot on with a lot of the valuations there with Klentak. To sit there and continually fail to evaluate the adequate worth of talent coming in and talent going out is just malpractice. I'm going to keep using that word for both of them.
And you mentioned it's not just the bullpen, it's the rotation as well. I mean, the top two guys Nola is great. Wheeler has been great. Beyond that, the rotation, I mean, Eflin is a guy who should be, I like him, he should be a fifth starter. And Arrieta has no business. He was pitching well tonight until he got hurt. I'll give him that. But he has no business being in a rotation right now. And who else? Spencer Howard, he's not there yet. He's not ready to be an effective piece of what
physically right.
Yeah, I don't.
Even
I don't
before
know
the
what's
injury,
going on.
like I said, Rob, we talked last show. To me, it was we saw this kid popping 98 to 100, on those out pitches and consistently popping 96 to 98 on his fastball for 2 years, and to come up and have 93 to 95, and it's very unexpected. We kind of see Jojo Romero going the other way. We saw Jojo Romero throw 91 to 94, and he's out there throwing 97. So it's weird how things go, and that's why I believe that coming into the season, whether it was the preparation from Spence or what, I don't know that he was physically there. And then again to go down with that injury kind of supports that thought.
Yeah, well, normally with nerves too, that makes you throw harder, not lesser. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. It seemed to be something physical from the forefront, because if you're nervous, you tend to be someone like Vince did in his first start, which got him 16 or whatever it was strikeout. Just come out there and gun it.
This is his rookie year, close enough.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just think the Phillies, first of all, the bullpen has the opposite of the Midas touch. Instead of everything they touch going to gold, it turns to crap. So unless if you're Blake Parker or Jojo Romero, then you're excluded from that conversation. If you're not any of those two people, then you're not.
Which again, why the hell was Blake Parker not on the opening day? Like, holy crap! Like, what were you looking at?
Yeah, because he really only had, a year and a half down in his career. When we picked him up was when he was struggling, and then he showed a couple signs.
Okay.
Now he seems like he's back. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just, he's a funky bullpen guy. He's a guy that I trust in the 5th, 6th, and 7th inning.
Yeah, I agree with that. And before we move to the next topic, I was thinking, though, because I thought of this when you were describing stuff Glenn Tech did. When we got him from the Angels, the talk was this guy's a good young mind. He likes to use analytics. If you look at the way he does moves, he doesn't fully use analytics, because you want to trade for a guy that depends on a curveball, a guy that depends on a cutter mainly, like they were saying on the post game. If you're an analytical-minded guy, you usually want guys that have a secondary pitch, so if they fail at the first, they're not screwed. The Phillies have a lot of people that if they fail at the first pitch,
there are only so many guys who succeed with a single pitch. Mariano Rivera is the easy example of, he was a one-pitch guy. He just had a cutter that worked. He went after guys whose natural ability to tunnel seems to have escaped them. So when you're hanging a curveball with a less than stellar fastball as a workman is, you're going to get hit, and he is. The same can be said for Hembree right now. But that's what bullpen arms are. They are two-pitch guys. And yet second pitch for a lot of them is the fastball. Like, it's the off-speed pitch that's their bread and butter. But the fastball needs to work in order to have the play with that and deception of that second pitch. So when that one pitch isn't working, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, hopefully that's something we're finally able, like you two touched on, to figure out in this offseason, because you can't do a damn thing about it now. They're past the trade deadline. We don't have the depth in the minors unless if Ranger comes back up, who's probably going to have to be a starter now, and does something there. That's probably why originally I thought they sent him back down due to Howard to potentially stretch him out. Now they're probably definitely going to stretch him out in the taxi squad camp, because who else you could have put in the starting rotation? Yeah, now that Seabold's
Medina.
Yeah, it's not. I don't know how. I would have rather almost have Suarez in the rotation. Well, you're going to have to put Medina in probably if Howard's out for a while. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But we can move on to our next topic now, which is in order to get going, who do you think needs to step up and be the spark for this team, or who has already done good has to continue to be the spark for this team? And on this one, I'll start with Rob.
Well, I'm going to go to the guy who was red hot to start the season and has since cooled off mightily, and that is the $330 million man, Bryce Harper. The offense hasn't been the issue with this team. They've still been scoring runs. It's been the pitching as it has been all season long, but they need him to go back to being what he was at the beginning of the season. They need to go back to hitting near 300 and just crushing baseballs all over the place. That's why he's making the big money. That's why he's making the $330 million. They're paying him to be the superstar on this team. So he needs to be the superstar on this team. He needs to be that guy who goes out, leads by example, and puts the team on his back when they need to be carried into the playoffs. I expect him over these final, what is going to be 14 more games after tonight, or 13?
13, yeah.
13, yeah. I expect him over these final 13 games to get his shit together, to start to get that average back up a little bit, hit a few home runs, get himself going in time for the playoffs to start. I need Bryce to be that guy. There's plenty of guys who could shoulder some responsibility in getting this team ready for the playoffs, but when you're making $330 million and you're labeled as one of the league's biggest superstars, you need to be the number one guy there.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Shane, is Bryce your guy? Do you have a different guy in mind?
Bryce is the answer. You pay your superstars what you do for moments like this. At a certain point, and it's I think a little more difficult in the sport of baseball to quote unquote put a team on your back. There's only so much you can do. Bryce can't go out there and pitch. He can't go out there and save you 9 runs a game. From this bullpen. But again, going out there and executing to the best of his ability and coming through in the moments that he does have, if he's coming up with runners on base, it's going to be consistently driving those runs in. It's continuing to maintain his aggressiveness on the bases and getting on base for that matter, to lead off innings or with no one on, whether that be via the walk, and drawing at bats out for guys to kind of view the stuff of whatever, pitchers on the hill opposing them. There's a lot that Bryce can do to, as Rob mentioned, lead by example. Just to throw another name out there beyond that, I'm going to go to the guy, another former MVP, and Andrew McCutchen, who's quietly, I think, been really, really impressive since a very cold start. Over the last 30 or so games, he's a little over 300. He's got that pop and power back that you would expect the guy to have at this stage of his career. Certainly not the Andrew McCutchen of old, but a really, really quality hitter nevertheless. And still playing a decent outfield. But for me, atop the order, we saw what we lost last year when he came out of the lineup after the ACL, and it's going to be really, really important to have that catalyst atop this lineup right now as well. You can go up and down the lineup and say everyone has a role, and they do. But if your leadoff man is a guy that's a consistent threat in just about every aspect of the offensive aspect of the game, you're going to put yourself in a really good position to win a lot of ball games. How many years did we see that with Jimmy Rollins? He gets on, and their record was, I think, in the 600s in terms of win percentage. So it makes a big difference, and I think you'll see a similar thing with Andrew McCutchen. And if Andrew's getting on, then you know that Bryce is going to have his opportunities to knock him in, especially being slid up from that 3-hole spot now to the 2-hole spot. The opportunities are going to be there for these last 13, 14 games before we hit an eventual hopeful postseason.
Yeah, it's McCutchen's another guy, a good one to bring up for this because aside from him aside from Harper and Gregorius, he's the only other guy who's a regular member of the starting lineup who has postseason experience. Granted, what was it, 3 years, and they were bounced in the I think the wild card game 1 year, and then the other 2 years they were out in the divisional round.
Was that
So
one game the one with that crazy call that was completely wrong? Was that the
I forget. I
Pirates
know
game?
it was one of those even
In
years in
15?
which they lost to the Giants.
Yeah,
and the
remember the ump
It was an
blew a
even years.
playoff game? Yeah.
Yeah, one of those. But yeah, he's never been past the divisional round, but he's one of 3 guys who are consistent members of the starting lineup who have any sort of postseason experience. So yeah, I'm with McCutchen also playing a big role down the stretch here.
It's the veteran swagger that comes with the two of them as well. These are guys that the rest of this clubhouse have to listen to, and they're going to want to listen to. They're both infectious personalities out there, and they do love the game of baseball, and it shows. You'd want to throw a name out there like an Alec Bohm, because I truly believe at this point, I'm confident in saying that I think he's the best hitter on this team, pure hitter. The obvious threat of a Bryce Harper is huge. JT's fine for what he is. Didi's great, but I think pure hitting, we have a true stud here at Alec Bohm, but he's not going to command that yet. And frankly, he doesn't look like the personality that'll ever quite command the room in the way that an Andrew McCutchen or Bryce Harper will. And I think that's why it comes down to those guys. Ultimately at this point to Didi as well. All of those guys are going to really have to make an impact here over the last 2 weeks of the season to put themselves in a position, to get into this postseason and give themselves a shot.
Yeah, I agree. My guy, because I knew we were definitely going to get Harper, and then my guy was going to be Didi because, like Biscuit's been saying in the group chat, other than just JT, you also got to figure out a way to re-sign him because he's been a heart and soul of our team. And if you have to get rid of Gene Segura to re-sign him, because I don't care about Gene Segura as much as Didi Gregorius, and I don't think Shane does either. So, I think
an absolute piss missile of a home run tonight too.
Diddy looked like he was going to take off a part of the second deck with that home run, chip off a part of concrete out there. But no, he's been playing very well. He's always been a heart and soul energy guy ever since of his Diamondbacks days. So, I mean, he's just a player you love watching, and happy he's on our team and hope he's on our team past this season, Mac Lantac. So, but now we're into the more positive parts of our team, as we hope Hector Nearest, as we're on the podcast now, is part of that positivity tonight. But I'll start with this one with you, Shane. Who has impressed you the most, even through our ups and downs this season, to keep you a little bit more positive about this team?
It's weird. I think on an every night basis, there's literally only one name on this team that has impressed me, and that is Alec Bohm. You expect him to be good, but you don't expect him to be as calm as he is up there. Obviously his calling card was always going to be his hit tool. The power will eventually come. The fielding was always going to be below average, and we've seen it. But we've also seen him flash at times, and make some plays that, maybe we didn't expect him to make. At this point, it's pretty clear that his glove side defense is certainly better and more confident than his backhand side. At least playing third base, but we saw him have a decent glove tonight, scooping a ball that Kingery, I don't know, looked like he threw with his left hand or something on a double play to actually the one that JoJo came in and threw his first pitch on to get out of that jam after Jake left. But Alec Bohm to me is the reason to watch every night when there are no other reasons to watch this Phillies team. For 4 at bats a night, you can watch a kid really, really impress you for a rookie, for any hitter at that, for that point.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I agree. It's nice to finally not talk about the Nationals and Braves and Marlins having a guy that comes up and hearing about that on MLB Network all the time. Now you put it on, you hear about a Phillies guy impressing. It's very nice to hear that.
Yeah, and he's not doing anything overly sexy in the box. He's taking pitches where they're pitched, which is a cliche thing to say, but it's true. You can't pitch him in, you can't pitch him out. I think it was Amaro on the broadcast the other night who had mentioned, defenses have to play this guy straight up, and in part it's because he is a rookie and the book isn't huge on him yet. But then the other side of that is the fact that he is so willing to take the baseball the other way. We've seen, and it's not like he's blooping things out there. He's not Derek Jeter just kind of lofting balls over the second baseman's head. He's hitting 104-mile-an-hour line drives to the gap. He's stretching doubles into everything. And for a bigger guy, he's got some okay legs. He's a joy to go up there and watch. Beyond that, I'm going to say Andrew Knapp has really surprised me. He's a guy who I have notoriously been down on. I've said some pretty awful things about him and his game. But this year, whether it be for a backup catcher, for a utility guy out there, a DH at times, he has shown to be a true professional hitter, that there is a spot for him in this or any clubhouse on a major league roster. And he just calls a nice game. Part of me wonders if these guys get here and they don't have success out of the pen that they may have had elsewhere, because maybe JT doesn't quite have the relationship and read off some of these pitchers that a guy like an Andrew Knapp may. It's not a huge knock on JT. It's a really difficult thing to call a good baseball game. There are very few catchers who, in my mind, I can think of off the top of my head, that call excellent baseball games. And Andrew Knapp's a guy who you feel like just gets it back there. And I think part of that is kind of that backup quarterback-esque role where they have to become a student of the game, and they have so much time to do so, because they don't have to prepare for all the things that JT has to prepare for getting ready to actually physically go play. 3 out of 5 games, he's just sitting there with a clipboard. So he gets to retain that knowledge and go out there and then in his few moments execute it. And to this year, he's done a really fine job of that. So that's another surprising one for me right now, is definitely him on the positive side.
Yeah, if we had to name a most improved Philly between last year and this year, definitely 100% Andrew Knapp.
Yeah, and good for him, because he is a good dude.
Yeah, very good dude. But Sean's going to be obsessed with this podcast now. Probably going to be doing backflips. And,
Sean is just like a mini Jack Fritz. Like, Sean, when you listen back to this, I'm just so eager to hear your first original take.
But no, Knapp is a great one. That was going to be a guy that I thought of as well. And then I think a guy that also, this isn't a position player, but we have to put JoJo in there. He's come in and thrown. He's the opposite of what our veterans are, which is backwards. Normally, when a veteran gives up a couple hits, they keep attacking because they're a veteran that knows that they have good stuff. And a rookie falls off a cliff and goes, okay, I'm not going to attack anymore because I gave him a couple hits. Not JoJo Romero. JoJo Romero gives him a couple hits and it seems like he gets pissed off and he starts throwing better pitches. So That's great quality to see in a young kid, that you can use as many good lefties in your bullpen, especially double-sided lefties, meaning guys that can get out righties almost as good as they can get out lefties. That's a great commodity to have in your bullpen. So I think he's a guy that you have to shout out as well. And then Blake Parker, we already mentioned him. He's just good old Twitch out there. Has been doing very good.
I think the thing with JoJo, is, so I had mentioned this. Oh my God, I'm blanking already. Sorry, the TJ's One of Us podcast. I couldn't remember what our NBA podcast, or our old NBA podcast at this point, was called. But going into the Pelican season, I thought, they're going to be so young that they're just not going to know they're not supposed to be good. So they're going to go out there and they're just going to ball out every night. I was very wrong about that. The Pelicans were not a good basketball team. But I get that same impression with the actual execution from a JoJo Romero. He seems like a guy, and you had mentioned it, like just nail on the head there, Joe. This guy has a veteran mentality, and he has, a don't F with me attitude. He goes out there, and if he makes a mistake pitch, he trusts himself to go ahead and make that same pitch, but make it better, and don't miss that next time. And that next pitch very well may be literally the next pitch. And it's so hard to find, and especially for a bullpen guy. One of the things about JoJo, and I had, so it was last year, I had Alex Carr on, and guys loved JoJo Romero, and I've never liked JoJo Romero until this year. I didn't see the thing that Alex Carr continued to try to sell me on, how special his stuff is, and that personality and that quirk that kind of comes with him. Now, when I had talked with Alex before, the discussion we had never really had that maybe he's an eventual bullpen piece, but there's a guy that he had compared him to, and in watching him pitch, I start to see it more and more. And he had compared him to young David Price. And that's huge, because when you sit there and you take a look at what he was able to accomplish out of the bullpen, even going back to the World Series in '08, like he was or that whole postseason, not necessarily the World Series with us, but an incredibly talented and fearless pitcher on the mound. And he shouldn't have been. The guy was just out of Vanderbilt like 6 weeks earlier. It's insane, but he picked up the baseball and he said, screw it, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to trust my stuff. And that's deadly. And when you have the stuff to back up that trust and it works, it's a lot of fun to watch. So Alex Carr, whom I'm sure no longer listens to the show, who is on to far bigger things, you were right about JoJo. I was incorrect, and I certainly see what you were pointing out last year about the stud. So good on you, Alex Carr. Good follow on Twitter, by the way. But JoJo, I think it's a really good poll by you.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he's a very good dude, Alex. We DM talk sometimes. Good dude right there.
Sure.
But Rob, do you have anything else about? I think we covered most of the guys that impressed, because unfortunately we don't have as many as we hope. So, I missed one since he came back. Hazley's looked good since he's come back off of the injury.
Who'd have thunk if you just play the man? I'm really, really disappointed in Girardi this year. I know we're supposed to end on the positives, but if we could just give like 5 minutes real quick to talk about Girardi. To me, this is a
guy.
End
positive anyway, because we're going to end on talking about Bohm. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we'll end on that. But we sit here and we get a guy, and again, I was ecstatic as anybody to get a guy like a Joe Girardi with the pedigree that he has, seeing what he was able to accomplish in Miami, which I believe was Florida at the time, with Marlins, and then to go in there and do what he did with the kind of talent that he had and the personalities and the media of New York, and to be able to succeed the way that he did there as well. I thought that this is, as much as I love Gabe Kapler, this is the guy. This is the guy that takes you from a potential postseason team to a guaranteed postseason team. And not only that, but a threat. This guy, his bullpen management has been atrocious, and that's no easy task because our bullpen has been, in fact, atrocious. But I believe he has aided to that. On a 162-game schedule, you have the opportunity to sit there and let some guys work out some kinks. You don't have that with a 60-game season right now. At a certain point, if 3 games go by and a guy shows that his curveball's never dropped in its entire fucking existence like a workman, maybe stop throwing him out there in the 9th. And it was like 4 out of 6 games in a row, and it's atrocious. And then you got, and again, I'm more impressed with Roman Quinn this year than I anticipated being. And I know that's weird to say, because for those of you who did listen to me on one of the last shows I was on, right around season start, I feel like it's been a bit since I've been on, I had mentioned how a guy that I would thought to look out for would be a Roman Quinn. But I thought it to be a gadget guy. I didn't think him to be a starter. But that's what he's been in Joe Girardi's eyes. And you got a guy like Hazley, a former 7th overall pick of just a few years ago, spent 3 years in Virginia, has a decent arm, is a better center field than we ever would have anticipated, has a little bit of pop, and his hit tool is spectacular, untested against lefties. But if you're going to be patient with a workman curveball, maybe, just maybe, you're going to want to say, hey, Adam Hazley, I'm going to put you in against 3 lefties today. I just want to see what you do. I just want to feel it out. That's the guy you trust a little bit. The 7th overall pick with some pedigree. You don't trust a workman curveball that's proved to just not fall. Unbelievable to me. I've been incredibly disappointed with Girardi at this point. Really upsetting.
They kind of made fun of him on the broadcast, like hinted at, because they're like, Kruk even said, well, sometimes your lineup decisions don't work or something like that, because they immediately pinch hit for Kyle Garlick in his second at bat.
Stupid as hell.
And put in Hazley, which basically says, whoops, that was a bad decision. And then, of course, he got a clutch hit for us and is one of the main reasons we won tonight's game. So that's
good.
Probably should have just started him instead of putting in Kyle Garlick, who's hitting, 120? So,
dude, who cares? Send him back to L.A.
Yeah,
But that's what I mean. You sit here and you got a guy. I think again, I believe this roster is woefully underperformed, even with all things considered, with the injuries and everything that's going on so far. I believe that when we entered this season, even knowing it was 60 games, I believe that Joe Girardi could have accounted for an additional 1 to 3 wins, manager wins, to sit there and say, this is what you get from signing a guy like Joe Girardi. And what we've seen is, I think, him cost us 1 to 3 wins by lineup decisions or in-game decisions on its own, while we look, across the country right now at a guy who has, once again, a donkey of a roster overplaying what they should be playing out there in San Francisco and Gabe Kapler. And again, I'm a Gabe Kapler lover. I love the guy. I genuinely believe he's going to be a very good manager for a long time, no matter where. He's going to keep getting bounced around to dog shit places because I think that's what he's going to be able to succeed with or overachieve. He's like the Brett Brown of baseball. But man, it's frustrating to sit there and look across the country right now at our ex, so to speak, and see him overachieving and making decisions to jump their win total while we sit here with a guy who's got a World Series ring and a hell of a lot more pedigree than a 3-year or 2.5-year career of Gabe Kapler, who at this point, Girardi's arguably costing us baseball games. It's just frustrating. It's absolutely frustrating.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm frustrated with what I've seen from Girardi. I expected a lot more from him. I don't know. I mean, it's been a bad year for him. That's for certain. He certainly hasn't lived up to the hype that was surrounding him when he first became the Phillies manager. That's for damn certain. But I'm still gonna give him some time. Shit's weird this year. 2020's just all around been a weird year, and it's been weird for baseball. And I mean, as every team has the same advantages and disadvantages because of what's been going on, but I'm not going to use this year to judge Girardi. I kind of did the same thing with Kapler. I gave him a year, and then the second year is where I kind of, made my decision that I didn't like him. And I'm going to take the same approach here with Girardi. This year, basically whatever happens. Next year, if it's the same result, if there's no improvement, that's where I'm gonna say, okay, I'm over Girardi. But yeah, this year he's certainly not off on the right foot. And yeah, it is frustrating to watch Kapler over there have success with a much less talented roster and also playing in a tougher division. So it kind of makes things a little bit tougher with what we have with Girardi here, but I'm hopeful still that in a long run Girardi will pan out and it'll end up being the right move.
I do think over 162, and with I think that there's a palpable animosity between him and Klentak at this point. Like I said, top on down, I think the guy who's cutting each person's check, so to speak, makes the persons beneath them, their life, that much more difficult. I don't know that there's anyone on the same page in this organization at all, and that's a frustrating thing. So I would say that if Girardi had the opportunity to manage his team, from the get-go and had a little bit more say in what was going on, we wouldn't see a middle of the season Joe Girardi calling out Matt Klentak. That's embarrassing for your organization. It really is. So, we'll see over 162 and hopefully heading into next season, Middleton opens up that checkbook and, makes good on stupid money and really you're going to have to buy yourself some pieces at this point because, man, the farm's thin. We don't have the luxury of having trade assets at the middle of the year. So I'd like to enter into a baseball season with a complete roster for a change. And I think that'll help Girardi out, help anyone out.
For sure. Yeah. I think with Girardi, I think talking to people that are Yankees fans with some of the other podcasts, he said his one Achilles heel has always been sometimes removing starters a smidge too early, or sometimes a little bit more than a smidge too early. So it seems like that one Achilles heel has definitely carried over. And then because of, as he's talked about in post games, just natural human frustration with how the season is going. It added a couple more Achilles heels this year because of the frustration, I think, ruling some of his decisions at times. And obviously, I mean, like Rob said, 2020 is kind of a crapshoot. So, yeah, I'm going to let this year be what it is. And then next year is where I actually fully judge him. But since this year is a crapshoot, if you're stressed and want to stress eat, if you're in the Bucks County area, be sure to visit our guy, Asian Rob, over at Just Food. Get all your catering needs for events or just take out meal or ask for the chef special and tell him that Chasing the Pennant sent you. And it is 215-794-3663, 215-794-3663, or 215-794-FOOD, where you will visit our guy, Asian Rob at Just Foods. It will give you a mouthgasm and you will love it. So now moving on.
I love that word.
Right.
Moving on to our last topic, which is about a rookie sensation that we've already touched on some today, and Alec Bohm. He's going to have to catch, I would say probably Cronenworth would be the guy he's going to have to catch. What do we think are his chances to win the Rookie of the Year? And for this one, I'll let you start, Shane.
Well, I'm going to go back to a statement that I had said about him earlier in the pod. As good as he is and as professional as he already is, there's nothing overly sexy about what he's doing in today's game or by today's game standard. He's a guy who's going to hit rocket line drives, from foul line to foul line, gap to gap. Like he's just an old school hitter. The power will eventually come. That launch will eventually come as well. And unlike with most players where, I think that you'll see as launch and power increase, average and contact decrease, I don't necessarily think that will be the relationship there for a guy like Alec Bohm because he is such a professional hitter. But here in this first year for him, with some other, really talented rookies in the class in this weird 2020 season, I just think that you need something splash worthy, little sexy, and to me he's just good. Like he's just good. But that to me doesn't scream the cover of Sports Illustrated, and that's kind of what you look for in that award. So I think we'll get the votes, to be in the conversation, and I think that he'll be talked about throughout the offseason, and certainly headed into next year, so long as he finishes off these final couple weeks strong, and we have no reason to believe that he will not, especially as he's crawling up in the order now to get himself an extra at bat every night. So it's not unlike the Coots situation with the Flyers. It's just nice that we have a piece that the national market is going to talk about outside of the Bryce Harper, which was going to be the inevitable one. But it's nice to see with Bohm.
Yeah, totally. I mean, Bohm's a guy that keeps doing impressing and doing well. I think somebody that might get thrown in there now since he's pitched very good as a rookie, guy that just locates it. He threw a no-hitter now, so I'm sure that's going to get him some votes, as Mills on the Cubs, since he had good numbers to begin with, and now they have a no-hitter. Talk about sexy performance. You can't really get much sexier than that other than throwing a perfect game. And if you did that as a rookie, well, then you're definitely getting a lot of Rookie of the Year votes. But Cronenworth, yeah, I think right now, I think you were kind of leaning towards someone like him or others could get the nod because he does have more sexy stuff. He hit that clutch grand slam as a rookie. So he became immediately part of the home run hitting in what's nicknamed now Slam Diego. So that probably gives him a little bit of a bump. But Rob, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a really interesting comparison between the two because they have such similar stat lines. Cronenworth has about 30 more at-bats than Bohm does. So you figure 30 more at-bats, probably 7 games worth right there. They're similar in the power totals. Bohm has 3 homers, Cronenworth has 4. Bohm hitting 318, Cronenworth 328, and then Bohm with 19 ribs and Cronenworth with 20. So really, really similar stat lines there. And then they continue to be similar through on-base, slugging, OPS, and all that kind of stuff. It's a tight race. Cronenworth has a slight edge, maybe simply because of the fact that he's played more games. But I don't know. I haven't seen Cronenworth play because he's out in San Diego. I've seen the highlights. I've seen, the highlight of the Grand Slam, and certainly when he is in that highlight reel, it looks good. He's got a nice looking swing. I have seen, obviously, on the other hand, I've seen a lot of Bohm, and I'm really impressed with what I've seen so far. Certainly passes the eye test with flying colors, and just you can tell just by watching him play, by watching him hit, that those numbers they're not BS. They're not, Dominic Brown's one hot month in 2013. This guy is for real. The first home run that he hit that game down in Atlanta, he went 450 feet to straightaway center. And you guys mentioned it earlier in the show. He's hitting rockets 104, 105 miles an hour off the bat, using all fields, not trying to pull the ball. Looks totally locked in, totally comfortable at the plate. Now, fielding-wise, yes, he has a lot to improve on. That might be a deciding factor right there. I'm not sure how great Cronenworth is in the field, but we know that Bohm has some pretty well-documented struggles at third base. He has looked good at times, and I think that he is going to get better. But yeah, he certainly deserves to be a very legitimate candidate. And if he can get on a nice little run with the bat, and maybe have a multi-homer game or start driving in some more runs in these final 13 games of the season, I think he's got a real chance to win it.
I like it. Hopefully we have Alec Bohm. Either way, we're going to have a guy that's right up there in the Rookie of the Year voting at the worst, and keeps us excited for a youngster to watch. Like I said, we don't have to dwell on the fact the Braves and Mets, of all teams as well, and then the Nationals have all these young guys that were like, I wish we could have someone like that. Like even when the Mets called up Brandon Nimmo, who's a good player, don't get me wrong, but he's not a guy that's supposed to be the elite of the elite, a guy that can be the best hitter on a team or in the league, in your league potentially on certain years. Everyone's like, damn, I wish we had a guy like that. So now we finally have a guy in Bohm who's to an umpher degree of a Nimmo. Nimmo's a good outfielder, but he's not the pizzazz hitter around the whole field. He's the I can hit 280 and up guy. Bohm, we hope, is a I can hit 295 and up guy potentially.
I think that offensively, at least, Bohm could be maybe the Phillies version of Anthony Rendon during Rendon's prime years down in D.C.
Yeah, it would be
it's a big ask, and we keep hearing that comparison because we saw him, and I think it's the clutch factor and just how calm he is and how difficult of an out he's proved to be. Already a guy who doesn't strike out a whole lot. I don't know that I see the Anthony Rendon that other people see. To me, I see almost a right-handed, Freddie Freeman. A guy who's never going to have the, or shouldn't ever really have outside of maybe a year or two, 40 plus home runs. I think he's going to be like a 25 to 30 home run guy and just constantly in that 300 to 320 batting average range. Just someone who just does not strike out. And I think that's huge.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I do love how he's exceeded the gap. I mean, we knew he had gaps, pal, but that one homer he hit the opposite field, he does show simple, as they kind of say, keep it simple sometimes, and then you're hitting more home runs that way rather than doing what Gene Segura is doing. But, here's what it is. So that's what Bohm did. He put a nice swing on it, went to the opposite field, and that's not easy to do in Miami. So they have a pretty good field out there to carry that to opposite field. So that was nice to see. And then Kingery did that too, which was pretty surprising and nice. So hopefully he can get going a bit too. But that pretty much wraps us up for you guys' 2 final points. Rob, I'll start with you. Do you have a final point for tonight?
My final point is just fucking win. They're back to one game above 500 right now. The wild card would be nice against the playoffs. I want to ideally at least get that second position in the National League East, just because it'll be it's always embarrassing to have the Miami Marlins finish ahead of you. Like, come on, just get that over with, get past Miami. Just win, get hot, getting down the stretch, and give us some false hope that you can make a run in the playoffs, because we all know it's not going to happen.
No, we're gonna need a lot of pitching. Well, maybe Noah Wheeler Noah again if you can pitch on 2 days rest.
Hey, CC did it, kind of.
Yeah, I just don't trust that with our luck this year. Knowing that that'll make him get injured for the start of next season, I'll be like, great, this is exactly what I need in my life. But anyway, Shane, what's your final point of this evening?
So last show, that I was on Sunday night, I had mentioned, and it was in moments of extreme frustration with this team. I said, why the hell would you want to get to the postseason? And I'm calmer now. So I'd like to say that I still, why would you want to go to the postseason? Why? Like at this point, I hear you over there, Rob, saying just win. Shit, man, I just don't want to die. We got Jake, falling off the mound, looking like something like a sniper caught him in the right hammy. Like Snake looked like he's done. You got guys who can't put on pants. You got Kingery had COVID. Stop. Just stop. Just get out of the season with less guys in body bags than guys in body bags. And right now we already have like 7 active or people who should be active at this point in body bag. It's a nightmare with this team. Look, man, I don't care about winning at this point. I want guys healthy. I don't want Sir Anthony Dominguez situations heading into next year. I want to know that when we enter camp next year, that the pieces who are going to be integral to the success of that 2021 baseball squad, that they're going to be healthy and ready to go. Because at this point, after watching what we've watched with the Sixers over the years with injuries, with the Eagles over the years with injuries, and now with this Philadelphia Phillies team with injuries, I just want 1 year where we enter the season with all of our pieces here and ready to go. And I think that takes a precedent for me even more so than the signing of a JT Realmuto or a Didi Gregorius. Like shit, like let's make sure the guys who are already supposed to be here next year are going to be here and be here. So that's where I'm at. Postseason might be fun for some people, but for me, shit, that's just 3 more games to get hurt. And I just want to enter 2021 on a real baseball season with a full roster.
Speaking of that, we almost forgot. Big injury news for the Phillies, Rhys Hoskins. Who knows what's going on there?
Yeah, we didn't talk about that.
Yeah, that's also a UCL. Reading Megan, I don't know if there's been an update on that. They think they need Tommy John, but they don't know. That's why she kind of tweeted out, we don't want everyone freaking out yet because he's getting reevaluated. But
that's just part of the course of Philadelphia sports.
Yeah, normally reevaluation means you're going to get the surgery. It's kind of, let me go see if this doctor also thinks I should get the surgery. That's usually what that tends to mean 9 times out of 10. So I'm assuming that's what it means in this situation.
Yeah, it's literally just as murky and not transparent as every other injury report in the history of Philadelphia sports.
And like I said, I would say for it's always important to go out and get a second opinion. To me, I don't want to be advertised that you had the first one. Like I just want the report to come out that says, "Hey, I'm healthy and I'm good to go," or "Hey, I need 2 weeks on the IL and then we're good to go," or "Hey, it's jacked up. I got to go under the knife. It is what it is." I don't want that. Well, we're going to wait on a second opinion. We're going to try some therapy. We're going to try this. We're going to try that. Just stop. Just tell me the end result. Tell me what's going on. I don't need to know the process, because that's where stuff gets out of hand. That's where we sit here. We get angry about, Sir Anthony. We get angry about David Robertson. Tommy Hunter last year, even at points. It's massively, massively frustrating. But yeah, with Rhys, the one thing that I'll continue to say is that he is a position player. They do come back quicker than pitchers do. It is not his throwing arm. The concern is still that it is obviously his pull hand, with the bat. But even that, the way that you kind of pull through the zone, that isn't the biggest of concerns. It's just going to be about re-strengthening the muscles around that tendon once you come back from surgery. Like it doesn't necessarily impact the swing path. So like I said, I don't have huge concerns. But again, all I want to know is that once the second opinion comes in, if it does, and I have no reason to believe that it will not, but if it does say, dude, you need surgery, I just want them to put him under right then and just take care of it. and then move on. Let's just get that process going.
100%.
Right? Let's not wait until March 3rd, where he went out there and took a couple swings and said, you know what, I guess it doesn't feel great. I'm gonna sit out 2021. Let's get this stuff taken care of now. Coming from a guy who's dealing with another freaking knee injury because they did everything wrong, don't do it. Just get it taken care of and do it the right way. That's it.
Yeah, especially because of what you said. Position players don't take. I believe Carl Crawford took about 7 to 8 months and he played through it, but after he stopped playing through it, to get Tommy John surgery. And then I know,
had it too.
Yeah, Didi had it, and he was, I think, 8-ish months, if I'm not mistaken, 8-9 months. And then Cozart started next opening day when he got it towards the tail end of a season. Zach Cozart. So position players take a lot shorter. Yeah, if you lollygag though, like you're saying, then you're going to lose him for the start.
Lollygag across.
So you need to be able to make a smart decision here, and the Phillies aren't known with surgeries to make. Obviously, we see that with Sir Anthony. Make the smartest of decisions, and then also it seemed like they might have pushed a little bit too much on the Robertson end of things, and then he got re-injured and set back. So they're not the best at dealing with the whole injury bug thing, and they have a lot of them to deal with. So we'll see how they get with those and see if they get better with those situations. But my final point is just kind of, I already touched on it a bit. With how the heart and soul energy has been, Didi's been good throughout the entire year. I think I agree with Shane. You have to find first and foremost how to keep everyone that's already on your club locked up healthy. But if you figure out how to do that, you do have to re-sign, preferably on top of JT, obviously, so that trade isn't meaningless. Didi Gregorius, because of how much of an energy spark and leader he is. And then Stock's going to be ready. I understand that it's not going to take him long to be ready, but that's when you don't have Gene Segura on the team anymore. So that wouldn't bother me, as I said already, any much at all. But that's my final point as we wrap up the show, and we're ready to send it over to the Jackdaws to close us out. If you love our intro and outro music, be sure to follow and support this awesome Irish folk band at jackdaws.com or Jackdaws on Facebook, and also on Patreon, and you search the Jackdaws. So please check them out. This has been Chasing the Pennant Podcast as the Phillies get a nice 4-1 win over those pesky biscuit-hating, we all hate them, but especially biscuit, New York Mets. So have a great and safe night, everybody. For Borek, Shane, and Rob, this is Chasing the Pennant. Peace out, everyone.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with a win. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and such over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.